All right, and now we are also live on the Facebook and on the YouTube and on Vimeo, and of course, all you folks there on Twitch. So I'm going to walk over to the screen. I'm going to talk a little bit about today's workout because I can actually read it if I'm up there. And then I'll come back and we'll get ready to go. So BASECAMP, progressive aerobic endurance. We're going to be riding in erg mode. And the focus is to stay in endurance. Do not work too hard. 10 minutes of warm-up, 75 minutes of progressive endurance broken into 3 25-minute sessions, followed by a 5 minute and 5 second cool down. So we'll go ahead and click on workout. And then I'm going to go to Makuri Island, and I am going to go into a route that is known as Twilight Harbor. Why? Well, yeah, I don't know why. Because it's an easy ride, so let's do an easy, short route. And then I'm going to click on Ride. And we're waiting for Makuri Island to load. Which is good because I'm really not all that ready or prepared or something today. So let me actually just look at something with the lighting. I've been making some changes. I noticed I kind of dimmed everything or angled the lights slightly yesterday because they were too hot. And because of the green screen that I've got behind me, which means that you can see the game behind me, I looked green because I actually turned the lights up, and so more light was hitting the green screen, and that green was reflecting onto me, and I looked like I was about to get sick when I looked at the review. But just a lighting problem, a novice, rookie, whatever, live streaming thing that could have easily been avoided, but I didn't. And I also tried to adjust one of my Wahoo kicker fans. I've got 2 of them. And I adjusted it. I just didn't do a good job. So today I'm going to actually feel my butt here. I'm trying something a little different with the camera today. You know, I've been using the AI that automatically kind of zooms in and zooms out and decides what the best camera angle is and all that jazz. I still look too hot, don't I? Damn, I look hot. So, I don't know how that worked. Not very well, did it? But I don't want to look green. Okay. Well, it is what it is. I need a tan anyhow, so. You have to deal with how freaking pale I look. Maybe I should call the Donald's makeup guy and find out how to put on some nice orange shades on my face and my arms. So anyhow, I have been using that AI to do the zooms and to track my movement on the screen and all that. So today, I'm trying by not doing that. So we'll see how that goes. So my eyes Or not serving, I'm supposed to be pedaling faster at 90 RPM. So it's weird because on the computer, on the monitor that I have over here that is running the live streaming, basically, the lighting actually looks good. But on the screen up there behind the screen where I have the game, it looks really, really, I almost look like a ghost. I don't know. You tell me. What do you think? Is the lighting horrible? Or is it not so bad? Do I need to be wasting my time, my focus, spending time and focus to further perfect the lighting? Or is it, good? Or is it just good enough? Let me know and I'll do what you tell me to in relation to that. So, you may or may not know that I ride a Wahoo kicker bike. That is the relatively new, but definitely outrageously expensive all-in-one trainer bike unit from Wahoo. And yeah, it's expensive, but in the long run, when you look at what you're getting in terms of the technology of the not having to put wear and tear on your road bike or your own bike, whatever you wear. I've got to go into these 3 warm-up fast pedals here. It's really not all that much money when you consider everything. It has the auto tilt feature when you're going up or down a hill for the apps that allow that. Unlike, well, an example of one that doesn't would be ZWIFT when you're in a workout or a group ride mode. The tilt feature functionality does not work. It does not engage. So for all of you ZWIFT employees or designers or programmers or project managers who watch this, and I know you do because I have tens of viewers, you should seriously consider turning on the functionality for the climb feature in workouts and group rides, because it's a better experience and will encourage me to continue riding on ZWIFT versus, well, some of those other brands that may already offer that functionality. And I don't know why you turn it off in workout mode. Because as I've discussed multitudes of times, you've already got the data. You already know when I'm going up a hill or down a hill, even in erg mode, because you're adjusting my speed for the power and the terrain. So you know I'm going up a hill. Just let my bike adjust instead of turning that functionality off in your coding. Hey, H. Ellensworth, I think it said, he said, right on. So thank you. Whew. So this week, anyhow, I was talking about the bike. So it has the tilt functionality. It's obviously a smart trainer, so it has the resistance that'll adjust with the program, whatever program you're using. But it has realistic brake levers, hoods, and shifters. And so, you know, if you're used to riding a bike, specifically a road bike, then you're used to the shifters that are on here. There isn't another bike in production today that has figured out that the more realistic you make the bike, the better it is for us. The more enjoyable it is for us, because we're looking for the same experience when we're on our trainer. All right, last 45-minute fast, 45-second fast spin to wake our hearts and our bodies up. Get all those systems understanding that we're in for a grueling Zone 2 workout. Alrighty. So we got 1 minute at 130 watts, followed by 25 minutes at 130 watts. So, I actually was one of the, I don't know, call me idiot or whatever. I was one of the people who pre-ordered the bike after it was announced, literally when it was announced at Aerobic. I ordered it. So I was in the first container shipment that came here to the US. I don't know, a mere, 8 or 9 or 10 months after I paid for it. But I have literally had 0 issues with it. I'm a member of a Facebook page, on the Facebook. I am a member of the Wahoo Kicker bike page group, whatever you call it. And it's basically a page that was designed for people who have the bike, who have questions about it, or having issues, or looking for support from fellow cyclists, from other people that own the bike. Well, because of that, all you ever see posted is, hey, I'm having this issue, I'm having that issue, and I'll go over some of them. The number one issue that people complain about is that the theoretical steer tube slips. So the handlebars don't always stay at the height that you've adjusted them to. Now, when I got my bike and I assembled it for the first time, it comes in a big box. It's almost completely assembled. You basically have to slap your pedals on, slap 2 angled legs in the back on, and kind of bolt those in. Slide the pre-assembled handlebars and steer tube into the frame itself, clamp it down, and slide the seat post with a saddle already on it into the frame. Tighten those down and you're good to go. Well, anybody that's done any amount of maintenance on their bike, I put some carbon grip paste on both of those parts that you want to keep from seizing, because obviously we're riding indoors. It's an all steel frame with all steel fittings, and I guess there's probably a couple either stainless or aluminum bolts thrown in there. But anyhow, because of that, I didn't want it to rust, because we're inside and we're sweating a lot more than we do outside. So I used carbon paste because it's got a little bit of grip to it, but it also stays wet. Basically, it's not an oil, it's not a grease, but it stays wet, and there's a little bit of grit in it, not enough to do any damage, but just to help things stay in place. So I used that, and knock on wood, to date, it's been over 2 years now, 2.5 years almost, that I've had the bike. And I don't ride it a lot during the season, only when I am forced to be in the pain cave by weather, like in the winter when I'm here in Ohio. But I have never had an issue with slippage. That's one of the problems that people complain about. They don't like the slippage. And generally people are told, well, use carbon paste and shut up. Because it literally comes up almost weekly. Another problem people have had is with one of the crank arms. I don't know which one, honestly. If it's the drive side or the non-drive side, but one of the crank arms has split for multiple people. Basically, there are, I can't see right now, I think 5 different holes at the end of the crank arm, but which one you select changes the length of the crank arm. So you can literally try different crank arm lengths on your trainer, which is a great thing to do in the off season, especially with all the current data that is suggesting that the former belief that longer crank arms increased your power, your wattage, without increasing the effort, which is just wrong. And that shorter lengths basically reduced your ability to push power out, which again is wrong. So you can play with your crank arm length and see what it does to your form on the bike, what it does to the comfort of your joints. If you, like me, may be getting a little bit older each year. So a few people have reported those breaking. And then the biggest issue that people have reported has been that the shifters, which again are just like real bike hoods and brakes, and the gear shift buttons are the exact same as a Shimano and can be adapted to be like the single button on a SRAM brake lever system. So I do not like that. Really? No. So some people have reported those breaking, or not breaking, but failing to function, because basically from those there's a cable that's wrapped under the bar tape and then comes down and plugs into the bottom of the top tube where the kind of the control center is. And people have had issues with those no longer functioning. To date, in 2.5 years, I have not had that or any other issue yet. But in talking to a lot of these people that are having failures, I have found two things. Number one, there's a lot of people, and I do not get this. There are a lot of people who own this bike, and I'm guessing a bunch of other trainers as well, that don't clean their bikes at all. People, that's freaking disgusting. But set that aside, the disgusting nature of it. Just think for a second. We're on our bikes, and even if we're the only one riding them, we're on the bikes, whether it's every day or a few times a week or whatever, we're freaking dripping sweat onto these bikes. Sweat, I don't know if anybody has told you, but sweat has both a high acidic count, it's very acidic, and it has a lot of sodium. Your sweat is salty. I know, groundbreaking science here. When salt drips off of you, when sweat drips off of you in a liquid form, that is salt water, that is sodium, that is salt. By the way, have you ever seen what salt from the sea air or salt from salted winter roads in the north does to your car? If you were around in the 80s, you absolutely know what it does to your car, because it corrodes the shit out of steel. Well, you're dropping that same stuff on your bike constantly, and it's getting into crevices that you can't reach, you can't see, you can't find. So you really have to do a really quick couple-minute once-over with a gym wipe, a heavy-duty gym wipe after every single ride. It's literally 2 minutes of effort. I wipe down the hoods, I wipe down the levers, I wipe down the bars, I wipe down the entirety of the bars, including the stem and where the stem and the bars connect. I actually, on one of those bolts, the only issue I've had with the bike, on one of those bolts, on the stem, the paint has come off. It's flaked off. They just powder coated stainless. But in any little crack, in any little crevice, your sweat drips into that, and then it turns, it dries, and salt just sits there. So then I wipe down the steer tube really well. I wipe down the control center. I wipe down my I wipe down the whole bike, everything. It takes about 2 minutes. If I'm in a hurry, I can do it in 1. But then every other week, I do a pretty deep cleaning, and it's amazing. I find salt that I've missed in my daily wipe downs. Specifically, one area is in the cup holder, which is underneath the top tube. It's underneath. It's kind of where your down tube would be, but there isn't one on this bike, right? And there are 2 bolts that stick out, just like they would in a real bottle cage. Well, in those impressions for those bolts, it's literally caked with salt. So you got to get a toothbrush out and you got to kind of scrub it away. But you find salt in weird places. Places that you thought you were cleaning, but didn't. Interesting, on that same note, a lot of people in this Facebook forum group page thing, a lot of people have those sweat catchers. You know what I'm talking about? The sweat catcher? Like, I tried one. I bought one from Tax back when Tax was Tax and not Garmin. But I tried it on the bike. And one of the complaints people had in the early review days of this bike is, oh my gosh, the top tube is so thick that it's going to be a problem. Well, I actually haven't heard anybody that has a problem with their legs hitting the top tube. But a bunch of people then take an elasticized piece of cloth, of fabric, and string it between their handlebars and their seat tube, which is wider than the top tube. So number one, you're creating interference for your body. And when I put that on, my knees did hit that, which was annoying. More annoying was it covers up the control center, so I can't see whether I'm locked or unlocked for the tilt and what gear I'm in. Which, I mean, isn't huge, but it's still nice to be able to see it, right? Well, I have asked the question, a lot of people who on this Facebook group page site thing, who have had issues with their brake levers, and Wahoo has started advising people when you first report the issue to clean the plugs out. Again, they're underneath the control panel, which is underneath the top tube, because some salt can get in there. If salt gets in there and dries, it's not a good conductor of electricity or data, which is just an electric signal. So I started asking how many of these people that are reporting the issue have one of those sweat catchers. And of course I have a sweat catcher, otherwise I get sweat on my bike. Well, number one, do you realize that with the sweat catcher, you don't stop sweat from getting on your bike? Because the sweat catcher, which is a pretty thin, small piece of cloth, the Tax one, is literally just a piece of Lycra. Hey, Lycra. And so it doesn't really stop it from going through. It just slows it down. The sweat drips off of you, and it takes 4 or 5 drips before it then drips through that into your bike. But now it drips in a way that it can kind of take its time and think and focus on where it's going to go, where it can do the most damage. Most of the people, and if anybody from Wahoo is watching, and I know you are, because again, I've got tens of people that view this video every single day. I mean, my audience is massive. You may want to start asking that question when people are reporting that issue. Because a lot of them, most of them in fact, that I've talked to, have a sweat catcher over their top tube. So most of those that have the sweat catcher then think it's an excuse for them not to have to clean the bike. Well, even if you have that sweat catcher, your freaking hands are disgusting. Have you ever looked at your bar tape? Use light bar tape for a month and watch the bacteria and the dirt and the salt and the grime just build. Put it on your trainer so it's never going outside. You're washing your hands before you get on the trainer, I hope. And look at what happens. It gets disgusting. That's bacteria that builds up in there. Do it for a month. I guarantee it will change your opinion about how to wipe down your bike after every ride. It'll also, by the way, change your opinion on how well you scrub a bike if you ever go to a public spin class. I don't care if they clean them between classes for you or not. Scrub anything that your hands are going to touch because they're disgusting. And think about it. We sit here with our hands on the hoods or on the corners of the bars as we're riding. You know, we wipe our face, we wipe our hands, we adjust our glasses, we put them back on here. We're taking all that bacteria and we're transferring it to the bike. So if you don't scrub it down good after every ride, even scrubbing it well after every ride, you can't prevent it completely. But it's fucking gross. I'm sorry, it's gross if you aren't doing that. So wipe it down. Use some real gym wipes. And to my knowledge, there's another issue with some people and their power bricks. I'm not sure if there was ever if they were just bad power bricks when they shipped them from China, or if there was an actual cause for that. You know, you wouldn't think that a lot of people would have the same type of power surges. And these power bricks aren't anything proprietary. They're the same ones that are used for almost every electronic device today. So, maybe it was just a bad batch of those, but you haven't heard a lot of those lately. People are like, oh, if they get cold, they go bad. I don't know about that. I'm sure that there is an operating temperature range, but I doubt that they go bad if they get cold. If anything, the cold is better for them because, I mean, you don't want them to freeze. You don't want moisture getting in there. But just like computers or any electronics, the cooler you keep them, the better they function. But I'm not an engineer. So, I have been absolutely thrilled with the Kicker bike. I.e., I'm an advocate. Are there things I would do differently? Yeah, probably. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I will tell you that it is by far superior to, hey, B. Kickle just said, right on, another base camper. It is by far superior. Hey, TDJ R4F said, right on. It is by far superior to everything on the market today. There's nothing that even slightly compares to it. It'll be interesting to see what the ZWIFT bike that was announced a couple weeks ago turns out to be. But early reports are, because they're going for a price point, not for quality of construction, it's going to be mostly plastic, and I'm just guessing that it's going to be a shit show from the start. But it does look cool if you like that Tron bike look. But as of right now, this bike is superior to any other that's out there. And I've got a Tax Neo 2. I had a Tax Neo. I had the Wahoo. It was just called a Kicker, I've ridden on the Ceres for a couple months. I literally, in the process of defining what kind of bike I wanted, and it was part of an analysis project I was working on for work. I literally spent a year and a half riding on every trainer with different materials of bike frame to test and see which would end up being the most comfortable and reliable. So carbon, steel, aluminum frames on a trainer. On every trainer, on every smart bike that was out there. And after riding on all of them, this bike was the one I decided to purchase. So, take that with a grain of salt. Hey, salt from your sweat. Take that with a grain of salt. But I firmly believe that the kicker bike, if you're going to spend the money for a trainer and you don't want to abuse your road bike, because actually through that whole process I went and I met with a certain bicycle manufacturing company here in the United States, and I sat down with them and I was like, hey, if this project goes forward, can I buy, can I become a dealer so that I can buy several hundred of your frames? And here's what I'm going to do with them. And of course the sales team was like, hell yeah! But I went up and I met with executives and engineers. Ended up coming into the conversation. And as it turns out, the engineers explained to me that the tolerances on bike frames are obviously designed for the road. In other words, they're designed for a certain level of resistance, whether it's rough roads or hitting an occasional pothole or curb or whatever. But in general, they're designed for relatively smooth surfaces and some movement, over a rough road, i.e. a gravel bike, or even to the extent a mountain bike, to absorb some of that, which a lot of that's absorbed by the wheels, or transferred directly to you, or other engineering that they put into shocks or dampening devices, whatever. Hey, somebody, I did not read your name, just said right on, so thank you. So, they're designed for that type of a load of a shock. But when you lock your frame onto a trainer, it doesn't matter whether it's a wheel on or a wheel off trainer, you are adding stress to the frame that it was not designed to handle. Now, they openly said, it doesn't mean you're going to break the bike. It's if you put your bike on the trainer for a winter or 2 or 3 so that you can get some training in, you're not going to do harm to your bike. They said, but if you're going to lock bikes into trainers full time, they're just not going to last. They're going to break. Whether it's the chainstay, or the seat stay, or even something on the bike is going to end up being the weak part, and it's going to fail eventually. So I was like, well, okay, how long do you think they will last before they fail? And I'll just build replacement into my operating expense. Because obviously you're going to have to do that with whatever you buy anyhow, right? Everything's going to go bad eventually. And the engineers were like, well, let me do some calculations and get back to you. Well, then I got a phone call from somebody else in the company who basically said, yeah, we don't want our bikes locked into trainers full time. And I'm like, but I'll be buying them, and I totally understand that they're going to require maintenance and replacement frequently. And they said, no. They said, the problem is, if our bikes are on trainers and you have people that are on those bikes on trainers and they start to wear out and or break, people will see that our bikes break, and we don't want that. Not as a liability factor, we don't want people to see that our bikes can break. Well, I don't know if you are under the impression or the delusion that bikes don't break, but all brought bikes, whether they're steel or aluminum or carbon or some other space-age material that they're not using yet, they all have wear points, and they all get a little softer and softer over time. They start to fatigue, and eventually they will break. It doesn't matter what the material is. Now, under regular use, that may be 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And with the case of aluminum, you can cut out where it breaks and weld a new piece on. Steel, same thing. Actually, carbon, same thing. But for anybody that's ever done that, the bike's never really the same after that. So all bikes do break, but I totally understood where they were coming from when they said they didn't want people coming to the realization that we had to replace the bikes before they broke. So anyhow, yeah, so I rode on a bunch of different bikes. By the way, I did find a bike company that said that they would sell me their bikes and through this project. And I also may have had I don't know what you call him, a bike engineer, a guy who designs bikes and tests loads and limits for a living, send me a schematic of the best shaped frame to be locked into a trainer and said, look, go to a custom frame builder, give them this drawing and have them build this. It's gonna break, but this will be what lasts the longest. And since you're not concerned about aerodynamics or weight for speed because it's a trainer, the material and the thickness and the actual shape doesn't matter to you because of how you're going to use it. So I appreciated that. But then this bike came out. And so I rode it and the Tax Neo bike and the Atom, and I don't know, there were a couple others. There's actually several like kind of generic type brands that are out there that have similar but definitely not great functionality. I got those and rode those also. Some of them have some cool twists, like essentially a rocker plate built into them. So they move side to side and even forward and aft to absorb this motion. But I rode on all of those, or all of them that I found at the time. Most of those, they're just small Chinese companies trying to kind of break into something. Quality was not good. They were a lot cheaper than this, a lot cheaper than this. But they would not last. They had no support. So I digress, because that's somewhat a little bit off the topic. But the second area that I've noticed from this Facebook group for the Wahoo Kicker bike, and I'm assuming it's similar for whatever trainer people have, or if you think about the extension of that, when people put their road bike, their baby, onto a trainer for the winter. I found that obviously people don't clean their bikes very often or very well or even at all during the course of a winter. But more importantly than that, most people in this Facebook group never read the material that Wahoo sends with the bike, which, okay, I may or may not have read it either. But they've never done any maintenance on their bike. Well, for whatever it costs, $3,000 or $4,000, I expect it to work. Well, sure, it's going to work, but just like your road bike. So I learned when I was living in Miami full time, I learned really quickly that you had to, it wasn't an option, it was a requirement that you had to clean your bike after every single ride, every single day. Because number one, the salt that's in the air, and just as damning or damaging, the sand that's in the air and on every road everywhere, and ends up in your chain, in throughout your drivetrain, in the bearings or interfering with the bearings, and everywhere else. And so it requires you to at least spray and, lightly soak down your bike and your chain and your drivetrain after every ride. So I got in the habit of doing that. It's, 5 minutes, maybe 10 if you do a really thorough job after every ride. So it's while you're cooling down anyhow. And what one mechanic told me is by doing that wipe down right after your ride, you're also going to have your bike on a rack, on a stand. And so if you had a clicking or a squeaking or a grinding or something just wasn't right during your ride, when you first get off it is when you're going to remember it. If you set it in the garage and say, I'll get to it before the next ride, you're 2 or 3 miles in before you're like, oh crap, I was going to fix that yesterday or this morning before my ride. I'll do it tomorrow. Now, it never gets done, right? We've all been there. So, if you've got your bike up on the stand to clean it, you can address whatever noise it makes and do your simple maintenance, right? You're pulling the wheels off, so you're cleaning those. Once in a while, I don't know if you ever change out your cassette, but you can take those off and make sure everything's cleaned and functioning, and then you can check your bearings and re-lube or grease those on a more frequent basis than never. It's amazing what a difference clean bearings, clean and well greased or oiled bearings make to your efficiency while you're rolling down the road. And how many people have had their bike 2 or 3 or 4 years and have never taken out, cleaned, and re-greased their hub bearings. So that translates to your trainer. Whether it's your bike or a bike like this, a trainer like this, there's maintenance that's required. Simple cleaning, simple adjustments, inspections, if nothing else, like taking it apart and inspecting the chain, or in this case, the belt. And lubing the bearings or the moving parts so that, number one, they continue to move with as little friction as possible. And number two, the parts that are screwed together, like your pedals. Your salt is going to get in there, and even if you lubed the threads well the first time you installed them, as you clean it, as you ride it, and frankly just as you sweat on it, it wears out. The grease breaks down. Salt gets in there, and if you've ever had a seized pedal, you know what a pain in the ass it is, and how expensive it is to replace your cranks if you can't get the pedal out. So there's a lot of people in this group that, in addition to never cleaning their bike, they don't do the recommended or the advanced level of maintenance that any mechanical device needs on an ongoing basis. So I have never had an issue. Mine's never broken down. I've never had, to date, I've never had a failure. But I probably put more time and more effort and more, I don't know what you call it, just into simple maintenance of the bike. So just like your real bike, if you love it and take care of it, if you nurture it, and if you gently stroke it before and after a ride, maybe give it a little massage, tell it that you love it, and take care of it, it's going to take care of you. I'm not saying that that's the reason for every failure that I've seen in the forum, and I haven't had access to Wahoo's data on the failures, because they, especially initially, anytime there was even a minor failure, they shipped you a brand new bike and had you return yours so that they could completely break it down and see exactly what happened, right? Which is a smart thing to do, because they're developing a data set that obviously they can use for the future to make sure they don't have more issues. So you'll see that I have upped my bias. I'm now plus 5, so I'm at 105. I'm still in zone 2, but I want to go a little faster. I want to get a little more mileage. Since I was short on yesterday, I only rode 22 miles. And I know, because this is a challenge week, that on Saturday, we're climbing Alpe du ZWIFT, and I'm going to be pretty toasted by the time I get up there. It's going to take all the energy that I have just to pedal down, because, well, after doing all that work to ride 20 miles or whatever it is up the Alp, why wouldn't you take the free mileage going back down, right? And then, so I'm not going to hit my number on Saturday, which is like, I don't know, usually in the 50s. I might be close though, but usually in the 50s, and I probably won't be there. And then Sunday, I'll be toast from Saturday, and so I'll probably only ride maybe 2.5 hours. So if I get more mileage today, that only helps. That only makes it easier, because if I am going to hit my goal, it means my goal is 180 miles a week. It means that I have to basically ride 25 miles a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday's hard because it's a recovery day. It's a short ride, and they really want it to be zone 1. But if I can get 100 miles in during the week, then I only have to have 40 miles each on Saturday and Sunday. But some of those, especially moving forward, there's going to be more and more climbing. We're going to be getting more vertical feet in, but that means fewer miles. So at some point I got to figure it out. But I also know that when I'm out on the road, I will absolutely, come the season, M. Shakespeare or something or other said, "Ride on." So thank you. So, yeah, during the season, when I'm out on the road, I will be averaging more than 25 during the week, and certainly more than 40 on the weekends. Without the rocker plate on, you definitely hear the creaking of the bike a little bit more. But all in all, being used to all the creaking and the rocking and the noise that the rocker plate makes, it's still actually pretty silent. One minute until the final 25-minute zone 2 work is starting. All right, here we are, strong finish. I'm not supposed to be spinning this stuff, but it's actually self-selected cadence. It says 88 RPM on there, but that's just because they have to put a value in. And in the constructions it said SS, which means self-selected. So I can't get yelled at. Hey, look, I'm going 23. Woohoo! So after I got the Wahoo Kicker bike, I got one Wahoo Kicker fan. Because I'm like, I had in my actual pain cave, I have two other fans. I have a floor standing, just regular, fan. That is about, at normal, like, chest height. And then I have a big, a small box fan, one of those industrial, like, job site fans. Not the big ones, but one where the blades can move pretty slow, but still move quite a bit of air. And I have those set on smart switches so that I can tell Alexa to, now it's listening to me, to turn those on or off. And I just wanted to see what the kicker fan was all about. I like the idea of, like in the mode they're in now, where they automatically adjust to the speed at which I'm pedaling, which is awesome that they do that. Like, it's great on a flat road on a nap, or if you're not riding on a nap. If you're riding 20, the wind coming out of the fan is 20 miles an hour. If you're riding 30, the wind coming out of the fan is 30 miles an hour. So it feels like it would when you're on a bike. Except for the fact that when you are in these apps, the apps adjust your speed for the grade that you're riding on. So if you're going up a hill, and let's just say you maintain the same power, so for me right now 150 watts, if I'm going up a 10% grade, I'm still pedaling 150 watts, the computer is going to say, oh, you're going up a 10% grade, you're riding at 2 miles an hour, or whatever it is. But the fan is saying, oh, you're producing 150 watts on what we can only assume is flat ground, so therefore you're going 17 miles an hour. And vice versa. When you're pedaling down a hill and you're going 150 watts, the computer's going to say, oh, you're going 47. But the fan is going to read that data and say, oh, you're going 17. So until either the fan company, in this case Wahoo, figures out how to read the data from the apps, or the apps figure out how to connect to the fans, or yeah, I don't know. They're a little less impressive, and therefore, especially when I'm putting in heavier work or when I'm climbing, you want more air than you really have, so you have to manually control it. Which the nice thing about the Wahoo fan is you can. But that's really so that is an issue with it, and it's just the cost. It's $250 for about $4 worth of fan technology. So it's way overpriced because they know who their market is, which are a bunch of middle-aged men in Lycra, mammals. And so they figure they might as well pry a few more bucks out of our pockets while they can. That being said, it's pretty easy to buy a Bluetooth sensor, like just the sensor itself, and a circuit board. Read the either speed or the power or the heart rate data that you want. And you can't hook the Wahoo fan up to heart rate. I've never done it. But because I have multiple heart rate monitors and I never know which one, I have to repair it every time. But for about $5 you can buy a Bluetooth radio sensor. And for about another $5, the rest of the components that you need to build your own controller. There's actually a video on how to do that on the YouTube, if you look it up. You don't have to really be an electrical engineer to figure it out either. But you'll have the same issues, which, 80% of the time, while I love the functionality of the kicker fan, 80% of the time I end up going into manual mode anyhow. And so then the only advantage is that I can control it from my tablet. I can switch to manual and then manually adjust the speed so I don't have to get up and down. My other solution with the other two fans, which are not here, I just have them set at the correct angle to me and the correct speed that I know works the best, and I wait until I'm at the correct temperature before I tell my automated assistant to turn them on. I've only got 14 minutes and 40 seconds left. Woohoo! Hey, look at that Tron bike up there. And here comes a purple one. Man, those Tron bikes are fast. E. Robert from TOCC said, right on. Thanks, Robert. Oh, E. Roberts. Thanks, E. A. Reyes says, right on. V. Mildeberg says, right on. Milling, German. Ich spreche Deutsch am liebsten. I'm wenig, not am liebsten. Best of all versus a little bit. I speak it a little bit. And it's been a long time. Long time. Ich spreche Deutsch. So, I ride on ZWIFT, obviously. That's what I'm doing. I'm riding on ZWIFT. The reason that I'm on ZWIFT, S. Lopez CT from BASECAMP says, right on. The main reason I'm on ZWIFT is because of BASECAMP. In fact, before I rode BASECAMP the first time, which was 3 years ago, I didn't have a ZWIFT account. I actually prefer the graphics and the functionality of Be Cool is my favorite personally. Trainer Road's pretty good. I know a lot of people that like and push full gas, and I've ridden it a few times. I did their free deal during the pandemic. So what was that, 2 years ago now? And it was okay. I had issues with how the graphics, how the video itself loads and runs, and it's real jumpy. It isn't real smooth. Where like Be Cool, when you do their 4K video feed, it's incredibly smooth. P. Berg from BASECAMP says, right on, thank you. So, yeah, so Be Cool's video has always been incredibly smooth. And it buffers pretty well, so that even if you have inconsistent internet connection, it'll buffer the video. It should help to streamline the video if it does slow down. And Trainer Road was kind of halfway in between the two. Video is really good, high quality, but I'm sorry, that wasn't Trainer Road, that was Ruby. Video is really good. There are fewer routes than Be Cool. And the buffering wasn't bad, but there's a little bit of latency in there. So, Be Cool is on the top of my list. The 20,000 or however many they have now, 4K video routes where you literally can go ride any road anywhere in the world. You can create a virtual version of the Tour de France or the Giro or the de España, the Lucha de España. And you can ride them. And it's got accurate GPS data so that even small undulations in the road, you feel. And so it feels way more difficult than any of the other apps. But that's because it's way closer to what the real world is than any of the other apps. And even the Be Cool, their animated racing world, like this, the graphics are much higher end. Much more lifelike. More like you would expect a video game in 2022 graphics to be like, which are more real than they are, animation. It's all animated, but it looks more real, right? Like if you turn on any, Xbox or whatever they are games, they're pretty lifelike. And the Be Cool group ride, or the, I don't know what they call it, but their virtual world, they call it, is way more lifelike than ZWIFT is. The only thing ZWIFT has going for it, the two things, number one, the biggest, is the size of their user base. You can never come onto ZWIFT and be the only one riding a route. Part of that's due to the fact that they limit how many routes are open at any given time based on the number of people that are in the game. But number two, where Be Cool, they've got a list of recommended routes, but you literally can pick any route you want at any time. And number two is that they've got the most seamless integration with Training Peaks, in that every day they pull my workout from Training Peaks and make it available to me. Like today, so I can, well, I don't need to ride in erg mode. It's much easier to ride in erg so that I can talk to you than to be focusing on my power and my output and my cadence and my heart rate and all that, and talk to you. That being said, I don't like, as I said at the beginning of this video, for all of you ZWIFT engineers out there, I do not like that you disable the climb function when I'm in a workout. When we know you have all the data, because you're still adjusting, you're still reading my power, adjusting the flywheel tension and my speed based on my weight and power output and the road that I'm riding on. So you've already got the data, you're already making the calculation, you already know what the pitch of the road is. Let my bike adjust, or let my bike have the data instead of turning that field off while I'm in a workout, so that I know that I'm climbing at 8%, and that's why I'm only going 4 miles an hour, or I'm descending at 4%, and that's why I'm going 32 miles an hour. It just makes it, there are more cues when doing a workout as to what your speed is if that adjustment is happening. And there's no real logical reason why you have that disconnected in a workout. Because as soon as the workout ends, it's on. So yeah. Only 3.5 minutes left, 3:45. Whew. Your arms are feel like rubber, or is it just me? 26 seconds. Zoom, zoom. Then I got a 5-minute and 5-second cool down. And then just round out my mileage. I don't know, maybe to 30. Great work, it says. M. Daval says, right on from BIO. Jay Nichols said, time to ride, said, ride on. T. Bateman, a Brit, said, ride on. 10, 9, 8, 7. I'm going hard for the finish. During my cool down at 80 watts. Woo! Alrighty. So I have ridden, I didn't look, 28.9. Which means I'll be at 29 before this screen is gone. 2.5 slices of pie, 715 kcal. 1 hour, 29 minutos. 64 TSS. 6.4 was my TSS at the end of the workout. It won't be a lot higher because I'm not going to go hard. And I'm only riding for 1 mile because it's at 29 right now. Like I'm in my little chain ring. So it's really just an extended cool down more than anything, just to round out my mileage to 30.1 or 30.2 or something in that there neighborhood. See, now I can feel that I'm going up a 3% grade because my bike is tilted up. Now 2%. I can actually feel it going down. Now it's only 1%. 0%, I'm flat again. And so there's more cues as to when to shift, and now I'm down 1. Down 2. There's no reason I can't have that turned on during a workout. Big shift in the fan. What was that all about? My watts are going up. Huh. I have no idea what that threshold is. Al Schluth from BASECAMP said, right on. They got 29.8. K ELVR and B Rudd both say right on. So thank you. All right, now I think that the people from Wahoo are messing with me since I spent the entire workout practically talking about why their bike is so good, but issues with the fan. And they're not issues, just limitations of the fan. So now I think they logged into my fan and they're just messing with it. Because for some reason, it's going up and down at power's really not changing a whole lot. I don't know. I'm gonna write 31 instead of 30. I thought I'm going down a hill. Why would you go? Stop going down a hill. It's not a big hill. Just a slight decline in the road. So this doesn't make sense to me at all. There's a bike lane over there, but we're not riding in it. I guess it's because of these here party trucks. I swear that one's a garbage truck, waiting to pick up people that stop on the side of the road. Look at it. Doesn't it look like a garbage truck? Alrighty. Yeah. We might as well go one more 10th, right? So now you know my opinion on, well, you know why I have the Wahoo Kicker bike, and that I thoroughly vetted all of the options that were out there before I purchased the Wahoo Kicker bike. Let me go over to the computer screen so that I can, simper that. Click on the menu button. Look at that, I'm up to here in the constellation. I can't see what that says, but constellation. 138 average watts, hour and 38 minutes. Hey, 138 and 138. 2.7 slices of pie, 779 kcal, 71 TSS. So what was that? 64. So a little more stress there. And 31.5 milligios. Yeah, I mean, I went a little hard here. I think that was on a climb. 317 it says my max watt was, but it looks like literally for like a second. But overall, most of it was blue, a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow. And it was mostly either more endurance or recovery, right? So go ahead and save that there, RIDE. And then I'll come back over here. And again, I will thank you for joining me. Remember, every Tuesday through Sunday, I'm right here riding, usually on ZWIFT, sometimes on Be Cool, sometimes on Ruby. Once in a while, not very often, on full gas, but always here working out, trying to stay focused, trying to get healthy and stronger so that I have a more fun cycling season when I'm out there not being competitive with my peers. Thanks a lot for joining us. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Thursday, at 10 a.m. for the BASECAMP group workout. If you've got a bike, if you've got a trainer, if you have ZWIFT, log in, join the BASECAMP ride tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and come ride with me. I'll still be recording. You can still be watching me, but come ride with me at the same time. Guarantee you, you'll enjoy it. It's a free ride, and it's on ZWIFT. So thanks a lot.